Hi guys, my name is Arena and welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about the hiring process at Adobe. Leave your comments below to learn more about other companies, and also leave your comments with questions so that we can address them to our next guests. So today our guest is Anastasia. And Anastasia just recently got a job at Adobe. And prior to Adobe, Anastasia was briefly working at SalesForce. And she also has entrepreneurial experience. Hi, Anastasia.
Hi, Zarina.
We're so excited. I'm so excited for you that you got a job at Adobe. And I think Adobe is one of the top companies in Silicon Valley. And I use a lot of Adobe products. And I'm super happy and excited for you. So why don't we start from, why don't you tell us about yourself, where do you work, Adobe, and what do you do at Adobe?
Thank you very much, Zarina, for this opportunity. I would love to share my, I would say, job hunt story. I think I should start from the beginning. How I got here, how I got to Silicon Valley. In 2012, I came here to receive a master's degree in international business from Halt International Business School, and I fell in love with startups and innovation that's happening around. So I wanted to have this experience myself. I wanted to work for startups, and I wanted to, build something from the scratch or help to build this product from the scratch. So I joined a couple of startups, and then I got a phone call for a position at Western Union as a marketing specialist for Russian market, which was really interesting to see because I never thought that I would be able to leverage my Russian background and apply it here in the US. After that, I joined Silicon Valley Innovation Center, which is an executive education company, which is focusing on bringing clients from all over the world to Silicon Valley and to show them Silicon Valley companies, help them to understand its culture, help them to meet up with the top executives and successful entrepreneurs. After that, I worked for another startups. And then I decided that, okay, I've had enough of startup experience, so now I want to explore corporate world more. And I just had this Western Union experience, and it was a contract job, so that's why I couldn't stay there. However, I just wanted to work for as many companies as I can. So I really got into this contract jobs, and this is how I also joined SalesForce. For me, it was the fun work I have ever had. It's so unusual. It's so fun. It's so innovative because you don't feel like you work there. You feel like you're in a Disneyland. Have you ever been at SalesForce, by the way?
Yes, I have.
So you know that, and I also got a chance to work for Dreamforce. After that, I had some time off. I went to Russia to visit my family, and I was back, and I got back in January, and I wanted to look for another job. And in this case, my focus was top tech companies in Silicon Valley and companies that are also involved in international market. Because I have always had this idea on the top of my head that I want to work for international companies, and I have this experience. I also worked and lived in Chile for 6 months. So I can kind of have a I have a experience of working in Europe, in Latin America, and also in the US. So I want to bring this to corporations. I remember that on January 15th, I saw this job opportunity at Adobe. and they were looking for a product manager for EMEA market, and especially Russian market, which was so excited to apply. And I just immediately thought that it's my dream job, and I started to prepare like right after I saw this job opportunity, even though I had no idea if they're gonna call me or if they're gonna, proceed with my application. But still, I knew that I need to get this job. I need to do my best to get this job.
Did you apply to other jobs besides Adobe, or that was just your one shot and you just wanted to apply to Adobe only and nothing else?
Well, it was my first job that I applied to. And then I decided that, okay, I'm just starting my job search, and I can't, just put all eggs in one basket. So I need to apply for other companies as well. And this is how I applied for Facebook also. I can see that my strategy is to apply with referrals only. So if I don't have a referral, I wouldn't bother, because I believe that Silicon Valley market is so competitive that you have to have this referral. Even though if you're really great, professional, just like your resume wouldn't be visible. So you wouldn't pass the first stage if you don't have a referral. Although I know other people will manage to get a job without any referrals, but I would say it's more like an exception rather than a rule.
So you applied to Adobe with the referral?
The recruiter reached out to me first. Reach out to actually my husband first, because he is product manager as well. But he wasn't interested in this job because he's happy currently at his job. But he said, "Hey, I see this great opportunity for you, so maybe I can refer you." So he asked a recruiter if he can refer me.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so initially the recruiter reached out to, not to me, but to my husband. Yes, so again, like now I feel like it's, meant to be. But usually like I try to find people who work at those companies and then ask for referral.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's just summarize it. So you got a referral from your husband to the recruiter who was recruiting for Adobe, right?
Yes.
And the recruiter scheduled a phone call with you probably, right?
Yes.
To have a conversation about your background and stuff like that. So how did you prepare for this part, for the interview with the recruiter?
Well, in terms of like recruiter interviews, it's a pretty like equal process for every company and for every position. It was just like to see if you're a good fit for this position, if you're interesting, if you're like you can match like the salary expectations. So it was kind of a general interview. The recruiter didn't ask me very specific product management questions, so it was he asked me more like just broad questions about my job search and what am I passionate about and why I want to work for Adobe, and what my salary expectations are.
Mm-hmm. Did they ask you about your like resume experience? Did they ask you like walk me through your resume, something like that?
Just briefly, just like tell me like why you think you're a good fit for this position, like do you have relevant experience in product management that can be applied to this position, but very high level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what happened next after you had this phone call with the recruiter?
So after this call, I had to wait for 1 week before the recruiter came back to me with good news that now I've moved on to the next step, which is like interview with hiring manager. And this interview was supposed to be like more job related, more questions about product management. So I had 1 week to prepare for that. And since I was kind of unemployed, I had a lot of time available. So I went ahead and I just like ordered all the books that I could find for product management. And I started to prepare for this interview. I have worked as a product manager at other companies previously, so it's not like it's just my first job. However, I have never worked as a PM for such a big company. And I wanted to make sure that I do my best to prepare, and also that I have like this structured answers and that I can apply all the frameworks I know in a structured way. That's why I just like did online research, and then I read books that I got for this interview.
Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes recruiters, they actually help candidates with the questions that hiring managers might ask. So did you have this support from the recruiter? Like, did he tell you like, hey, Anastasia, this is the list of the questions that hiring manager is going to ask you. So why don't you prepare according to this list?
No, I didn't have this list. However, the recruiter told me that please be prepared to have examples for like how your past experience can be relevant to Adobe job description. So make sure you can provide examples for every line in the job description.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay, so now let's move to the interview with the hiring manager. So you had a week to prepare, and you ordered a bunch of books for the product management, and you read all of those. Actually, Anastasia can also maybe provide us a list of the books she got to prepare, right?
Sure.
I'm gonna list it in the end of this video. So what other resources did you use to prepare? Like, did you use Glassdoor to find out what questions do they ask? Did you talk to other fellow peers at Adobe and ask them about like what type of questions and what kind of people Adobe is looking for? Did you do any of that?
Yes, I did all of that. However, it wasn't very easy to find this information because my job was so specific and it just like, so this position is pretty new, so no one has ever been hired for this position before. That's why I couldn't find anyone who could share their experience. They could say, yes, I'm working as a PM at Adobe, but I work for different team, we do different products, so it's a completely different experience in terms of like how they can help me. But in terms of general questions, yes, it's available on Glassdoor. It's also available in this book, Cracking the DM Interview.
I'm reading this book right now.
And going back to the people who work at Adobe, I was able to find one girl. She works as a director of product marketing management at Adobe for Creative Cloud. And I actually went ahead and reached out to her because she has her own blog about product marketing management. Even though it's product marketing, not product management, still she works at Adobe, and she might be even my hiring manager or like my teammate, not teammate, like maybe like cross-functional team. So that's why I wanted to speak with her. And I asked her like, hey, can you give me a consultation? Like I'm really interested to learn more about the experience because right now I'm preparing for a PM interview at Adobe and I thought you could help me. Again, she has a PMM blog, so she's kind of like, I believe she's open to that. So she said that she's really busy and right now she doesn't have any available time for consultations. However, she said, please be prepared to answer questions how you can influence people without any like direct leadership. This is
Wow.
yeah, so this is like very important at Adobe. And also be prepared to provide examples of how you work with cross-functional teams. It was a good insight from her, but I just wanted more. I wanted to have like a mock interview, before having a real interview with my hiring manager. So I just didn't want to lose this chance. Well, unfortunately, I didn't have any mock interviews, but so then I went ahead and I started to preparing with the books only.
Okay, great. I'm super happy that people are still open. They work at companies, they have their blogs, and you can reach out to them easily, and they can actually tell you something. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Supporting the community. Okay, so my next question would be, okay, so now we're moving towards the actual interview with the hiring manager. Did you interview with one person, or was it a team? Like, how many people interviewed you, and for how long did the interview last, and what types of questions did they ask you?
After the interview with my hiring manager, I had an on-site interview with the team. However, the team was also like some teammates were remote because Adobe has a bunch of offices across all Bay Area, and so I had one interview with the product management, which is kind of my peer, current peer. It was face-to-face, but then I had 2 interviews remote. And these people, they are directors, and they work remotely, and also in other offices. It's hard to remember what exactly they asked me back then, but since they're really experienced in product management, all of the questions were like PM related, and a lot of like, behavioral questions, like, or a lot of questions like from my past experience, and again, how I can apply my past experience to my current experience, current position, and yeah, and also like such every interview starts with general questions like, tell me about yourself, why you want to be hired, why do you think you're good for this position, all of that. So it's kind of like icebreaker in the beginning, but then after that, once they know a little bit about yourself, they move forward with like more PM specific questions.
And regards to the behavioral question, probably the situational questions, can you mention like maybe a couple of questions from the behavioral side and from the situational side, just to have an idea, like what are they asking and what are they looking in the replies of candidates?
Well, first of all, they are looking for structured questions. Second of all, they are looking for like product management frameworks. And thirdly, they are looking for your strategic thinking. So how you think as a product manager, and how would you approach a problem as a product manager? How would you take into consideration like your users or your stakeholders, or like your team or deadlines and all of that? Especially when you work for a corporation, it's usually like so many people are involved in a product, so you have to build relationship with them, you have to negotiate some things, you have to do trade-offs in order to like ship a product. And so that's why they basically asked me all of that questions. So how I work with other teams, describe a situation when you failed, or describe a situation when you succeeded. Describe, tell me about a time when you had like some challenges with working with teams. And again, all of this kind of basic questions that can be found in PM books. And they were looking like, how would you approach these problems and how would you solve them?
What was your kind of formula on how to answer those questions?
before answering the question, make sure that you understand the question. And if not, it's better to ask questions beforehand, because as a PM, you have to always ask questions and make sure you're on the same page with your user or with your teammate. So ask questions first. Second, if you understand the question 100%, then you need to summarize what's going to be discussed next. So, for example, first, I'm going to discuss this. Second, I'm going to explain this. And thirdly, I'm going to choose between alternatives or something like that. So again, like most PM questions have their own frameworks that you can use. And if you're using frameworks, it's really easy to make sure that you answer this question correctly, because you're following the structure and following the framework.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Gotcha. Awesome. I think that was really helpful, especially like how what companies are thinking when they're asking about those questions. They want you to ask questions back to them to make sure that you 100% understand the question. Then they want you to kind of like give a short, brief summary of what you're going to talk about. And then when you talk about it, you kind of give them alternatives, like what happens if this and what happens if this, right?
Yes. Also very important to be very short and brief and concise, because it's really easy to lose attention of your interviewers. So that's why like it's a skill to master, and I'm still learning, because I mean it's hard to ace every interview that you have. It takes practice, and it takes a lot of hours.
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay, so now let's move on to other questions that I have here. So what did you like about the whole interview process that you had with Adobe? What were the key points that you really liked about their approach to the interview?
Well, honestly, the highlight of this interview process was people. And everyone that I met at Adobe was so nice and so friendly and so supportive that I felt like I just joined the family, even though I wasn't hired, during this back then. But still, they were so friendly and supportive that I just wanted to be hired, and I wanted to show my best. And it was a pleasure to speak with them. And it's not, I would say it's not that common for other companies. So, and it really speaks to Adobe's corporate culture, because they are looking for cultural fit as well. So they're going to be working with you. So they don't only, estimate your experience and then just like see how you're good as a PM, but they also look into your personality, like how is going to be easy to work with you or difficult. And that's why for me it was really important, because you interview the company and the company is interviewing you at the same time. Another thing that I really liked at Adobe is their, I would say, timeline. The interview process went pretty like straightforward and pretty and pretty quick, even though it was like just the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic. And then I just after I got hired, I just realized that my manager is super smart. So she wanted to get me on board as soon as possible, because she knew that, today you have this opening and tomorrow you don't. So you need just to act fast and don't procrastinate. Otherwise you just lose headcount.
Great. So we talked about what you liked about the Adobe interview process. Was there something that you didn't like about it?
I would say, I mean, it has nothing to do with Adobe itself, but I didn't like the background check. It took me, I don't know, almost a month to went through this background check, to go through the background check, because of all, because of my international experience, they had to check me out like for 7 years. So like where I lived, where I worked, where I studied for 7 years. And I've been traveling a lot, again, before pandemic. And so they had to get in touch with foreign countries and kind of, do a background check for me. And the US background check went really quickly and it was cleared out. However, I wasn't able to start my job before my background check was over.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where like I had a lot of challenges, because at some point my recruiter called me and said that, you know what, like we cannot wait anymore. We just don't know what's going to happen. Yes, you got a job offer, but you cannot start until this background check has been completed. And Chile was the last country that kind of like delayed this process. And I had no way to influence them. I had no way to speed it up. I just kind of a waiting game. You just sit and wait what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was very nervous because my hiring manager, she wanted me to start as soon as possible, because there are like some projects are going on and they need my involvement, and I just couldn't. So it was really frustrating.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how long did it take you to get an offer from Adobe, and did you actually try to negotiate your offer, and how did you do that?
Mm-hmm. Well, after on-site interview, I had another round of interviews with the EMEA team, and it was it happened at home remotely, and I had very I would say very interesting conversation, because all the questions were like Adobe related questions. So it's like they really were checking like how I did my homework and how I can solve some problems for Adobe, using my experience. And after that, I had a call from my recruiter, within 1 hour, and he told me that I got an offer. I was super happy. It happened really quickly, and I just like didn't have even time to, to be nervous and to wait. And I just honestly, I just accepted it immediately, because I knew it's my dream job. So I didn't want to make them wait.
Mm-hmm.
So I accepted right away.
Okay, so you didn't negotiate it. Gotcha.
I did negotiate it, but yeah, like so I had some negotiations, like so I was managed to get a better deal than initially thought.
Oh, so you did negotiate.
Yes.
Okay. Uh-huh. I know that in a lot of companies, like in order for you to negotiate your offer, you have to have other offers. So Adobe didn't ask you about like, hey, but do you have offers from other companies, like so that we can negotiate your salary and your benefits?
No, they didn't ask me that. So I negotiated it with my recruiter, yes, not with my hiring manager.
As of now, the hiring process at Adobe is freezed.
Yes, and unfortunately, it's indefinite.
Wow, that's sad news.
Yeah.
Can you give maybe like 3 do's and 3 don'ts, or 5, up to 5, for our viewers of this video, like just from your own experience, your advice to all the candidates who are searching for a job right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, firstly, do prepare. Do homework, do research company, do read books that can help you to prepare for the interview, because you don't know what other candidates are doing. You don't know what background they have. Maybe they are more experienced. Maybe they're more. Maybe they are native speakers. Maybe they are internal employees. So you have no idea. So that's why you have to do your best to prepare for the interview. Secondly, do stay positive. Uh, have this positive attitude. Show that you are really passionate about job if you are. Do stay nice with people. And it really helps because again, you're going to work with these people, so you want to make sure that you have this cultural fit um, in the company and in the team. In terms of don't don't get upset if you don't get a job. It happens. Sometimes it's not even your fault. You have no idea what's going on. And I know candidates that were in the final process. So they were waiting for a job offer, and then suddenly this hiring freeze happened and they just lost this opportunity. And there is nothing they can do about that, but it just happened. Um, so don't give up because other companies are hiring, which is good news. Zoom, for example, is really is hiring a lot of people now, and if not now, then you can join your dream company later when everything is going to be over. Meanwhile, you can work for other companies, or maybe like you can get new knowledge, get new skills, and prepare for your dream job while you're sitting at home. Even in my case, I believe that yeah, luck definitely helped me because right after Chile cleared me out, it turned out that they went on quarantine, meaning that just a few days later, I wouldn't be able to undergo this background check, and I wouldn't be able to join the company, even though, again, I accepted job offer and the company was waiting for me. So, yeah, just so try to stay positive and don't give up. And everyone is on the same boat right now.
Mhm. Thank you so much for sharing your advices. I think it's really important right now to kind of like give them this motivation and inspire people because we just all were hit by this pandemic, and like nothing like this ever happened. I mean, in my life, is like, for example. So a lot of us are confused right now and don't know what to do and what to feel or how to react. So I think hearing the success stories of people who actually made it is actually very, very motivating and inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Of
And
course.
maybe my last question, which is like your about your career goals, like what are your next steps for your advancement of your career?
Mm, I want to continue my career at Adobe. I want to become a better product management manager, and I want to, make a difference at the company and also make a difference on the market. So I will ship like better products that will be used by millions of people, and like solve their problems, solve their pain, and through that I will gain my experience and my PM skills, and they will gain their like I would say good mood about Adobe products.
So how is it related to Russia actually? Like I know you mentioned EMEA markets.
Mhm.
Are they targeting new products to Russia, or this is just a curiosity question?
Yes, they decided that they want to go back to Russian market. So Adobe has been on Russian market like for many years, but like 4 years, no, 6 years ago, they closed their office and they decided to switch gears and to focus on different markets. But now they decided that, okay, it's time to go back. People still use our products in Russia. We still have really like a big user base in Russia, so we should take a look at that. And no one at Adobe in my team speaks Russian and understands Russian market. That's why they needed someone who has this knowledge, who has the language mentality, this person can help them to culturize their current products to the Russian market. And they have, I would say, like international PMs for every region that they have. They have like Chinese PM, they have Brazilian PM, they have Korean, Japanese, and French, German, and so forth. So like for every market, they have their own PM because they really need to understand the cultural differences in order to ship products.
You know what? I think this is really important because I know that a lot of people who are coming to Silicon Valley from different backgrounds, like from Russia, from Brazil, from China, from Singapore, from whatever countries, and they all struggle with this, you know, maybe not all, but me in particular, struggling with, you know, that we are having different background, we speak different language, and English is our second language. And therefore our chances to get to the top companies, to the top tech companies, are slightly lower rather than a Native American speaking person, because just because we are, you know, have this accent, or we have to try harder to in order to deliver our thoughts. And I think this is encouraging for people who speak different languages, that don't be discouraged. You know, there are markets that these big companies are opening, like for example in Russia, in Brazil, and you may be like a good fit for it because you have this experience working in a different country and speaking that language. I think this is really important.
Yeah. And I have never thought that I will be able to find such job here in Silicon Valley. I thought that I need to be in Russia in order to work for Russian market, but not like here. And the reason why they do that is because they're headquartered here. So all the decisions are happening here, and they need to have people, you know, like they can influence these decisions here, not there.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you're going to have the opportunity to travel for work to Russia? I think that's going to be ideal.
Yeah, well, I asked that question and they told me, yes, it was a plan, but not anymore.
Oh, not anymore with the pandemic, right? Because of the coronavirus.
Yes, and plus because now they see how we work together remotely through through this virtual meetings, and they say like, why do you need even travel? Why do you even need to spend corporate money on traveling if you all can do really well, like just like now?
Exactly. Like this is a new opportunity for all the companies. I just recently was listening a talk from investors, and they were speaking about the convenience of having a Zoom conversation, because now they don't have to go to meetings and spend an hour in traffic. That just saves so much time. I mean, you can just meet, and that's just a new level of doing things. The productivity level.
New normal.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Anastasia, for sharing your experience and your success in your career with us. And I think this is really, really helpful for all the people out there who are struggling right now to find a job. And to all the people who are kind of like in this unknown, like what's going to happen, what's going to, you know, do it for me. And your success story and your advice is just so valuable right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zarina, for inviting me. And also, I hope that everyone will get their dream job. It will happen for sure. It's just like a matter of time when. And I had no idea that it's going to happen in March. So, but it happened, and I'm really grateful for that.